fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. I'd like to tell you right now up front, in case you didn't see it when you clicked on the video, this is going to be a long and very detailed video, so I would suggest grabbing a snack, maybe some alcohol, maybe we can make this into a drinking game, but sit back and relax because I want to give you as much detailed information as I can on this knife, on this brand, on the maker, on all of this, because I think it's the complete story that makes this whole thing so exciting, not just the knife that's inside of this box. Now, this is the very first time you are seeing this crest and this name on my channel. I have avoided Vased knives for pretty much as long as they've been in existence, and I'll get into that in just a second. But it's here, and it's ready to go. And I'll be honest with you, I am extraordinarily excited about this. This is going to be very, very awesome. There is the multi-tiered packaging. I really like the quality of the box that this is resting in. You ready? Oh yeah. It's going to be the RS Chaos, the collaboration between RS Blade Works and Vased knives. Let's get this over here. First things first, this is not a compression lock. This is not a button lock. This is a Smock lock. Spyderco let the patent run out on the compression lock, so expect to see a lot of companies doing them and different variations of them. The Smock lock was a button-activated compression lock, and you can see that liner lock right there that's engaging the blade, and it's this button right here that's pushing that liner lock over and allowing it to close up. Brian Smock created the Smock lock for his custom knife, the SK23, quite a while back, and it was very quickly adapted by Spyderco, and it was met with immediate success. It's stupid strong, and easy to use. Yeah, I despise the whole spine whacking thing, but I really want to make the point that it is a strong lock. And the fact that it's so easy to use is a really big plus. Now, Vased calls theirs the top liner lock. Well, that is a much more specific and I think correct name to be using for it. So this is the top liner lock. And I'm going to tell you right now, I really prefer this over a button lock because you are going to get an actual detent. When you deploy the blade, it doesn't feel different than a regular liner lock or frame lock knife. There's no oddity like a button lock or an axis lock or anything like that. You feel, as a matter of fact, more than 50% of the time that I'm playing with this knife, I want to reach over here and engage a lock because it feels like I am flipping or I am flicking a standard liner lock or frame lock. And to me, that is the way to do it. I know button locks are kind of all in vogue and everything right now. I was into button locks a long time ago when it was almost impossible to find a knife in a button lock. I was buying Brian tie knives that were all button locks at the time. And to be perfectly honest with you, between Brian Tie and Rod Olson, it set a bar for button locks that nobody has reached since then. So I was honestly a bit worried when I saw the images of this knife online and I saw that button. I'm like, oh man, really? They took this brutish beast of a knife and made it with a button lock? That's gonna suck. Boy, was I wrong. Not a button lock, and hey, guess what? Spoiler alert, doesn't suck. All right, story time and background info. Because as I said, I feel that it's the whole story here put together that really makes for the whole experience here. I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler alert, the knife is utterly fantastic, and I promise you, after a few minutes of doing story time, I will get into talking specifically about the knife. And I will bring this out, which is one of the prototypes for this knife, which is Rob's personal knife that he shipped to me and trusted me with, and I so very much appreciate that. Okay, as I mentioned when this first started, I've avoided Vased for a long time now, mainly because I don't like getting caught up in hype, especially hype brands. And God, everyone with a camera and a YouTube channel has made a friggin' Vased video. Not very informative ones for the most part, except for the really great channels, some good friends of mine that have done some great videos, but there are a lot of Vased videos. If everyone praises something, I generally hate it. And this goes for TV shows and movies too.
Oh my God, you have just got to watch Lost.
Shut up. Anyway, the other reason I avoid them was when they first launched onto the scene, they were super budget oriented. Again, at least in the beginning. And that doesn't really make my sack tight. I love value, but I don't go crazy for cheaply priced knives. It's just not my thing. And that was what I was seeing, at least upon first glance, with the brand. So I was like, let everybody else have fun with it. It's just not going to be my thing. And I honestly didn't believe that my audience would be very interested. Boy, was I an idiot. Anyway, so I got a message from Rob Saniscalchi at RS Knife Works telling me that he wanted to put the chaos in my hand, and I instantly said yes. I've known Rob probably just about 10 years, and before getting to know him at all, I was a fan of his work. His compound grinds are nothing short of amazing. I'm talking Jim Burke level of complexity, and that's a super high bar to reach. Rob has also been a wonderful supporter of my work since I began making knives. He would always be one of the first people to click like whenever I posted a newly finished knife onto my Instagram, and he would constantly send me messages with really positive reinforcement and just nice things to say. Very encouraging messages that sometimes when I was having a really shit grinding day, I'd read one of his messages that he would randomly send me. And it would really pull me out of a funk. And I would look at his work and go, gosh, I wish I could be as creative and do such wild and crazy things like he did. So quite honestly, this model here that I call the M&O Starlight was one that I kind of wanted to go off into some wild and crazy and somewhat impractical shit because I had seen a lot of what he did. And yes, his compound grinds, while amazing, are not always 100% practical when you break it down. but they do work really, really well because he's doing a reverse compound. I'm sorry, I'll get into that in a minute when I start really talking about the knife. We are still in story time mode, folks. Cut me some slack. Anyway, he's the kind who would rather support other knife makers than compete against them. He even invited me to his shop to grind a bit and maybe pick up a trick or two at some point in the future whenever I wanted to. But unfortunately, when he made that offer, it was right as my health was forcing my unexpected retirement from knife making. So actually, the knife I just showed you is one of the last that I was able to complete before everything kind of went to hell. So hey man, having escaped death twice in the course of just a couple of short years, it changes your perspective on shit. And I'd rather spend time with friends and family and stuff like that than keep pushing myself in the shop until it will literally kill me. So anyway, he's a really fantastic guy. And to see this support that he gives to other knife makers is absolutely inspiring. That's for damn sure. So forgive me if I seem a little bit biased because I really do like Rob as a person, and I strongly admired his work long before I ever got the chance to communicate with him. Now, the Vased connection ended up not being very random. Rob met Yua Dong, the owner of Vased, back in 2019 when Yua was still at Kaiser Knives. Rob was put in touch with him to help him develop a project at Kaiser to make his Paragon model. As they were developing it, the world came to a halt, which of course impacted their progress. But they kept in touch, getting to know each other beyond just developing a knife. They became friends easily since they were very much in tune on how a knife should be designed, how it should be executed, how the work should be done, and how the quality should be in it. When Yua decided to leave Kaiser to start his own company, Rob jumped on board immediately because, once again, he likes to support good people. And Rob told me that he considered Yua a good friend, and he put his faith in his friend, even though, probably leaving an established brand might have been a bad financial plan for Rob. Who knows what's going to happen with a brand new fledgling brand. Those aren't his words, by the way. Those are mine. The RS Chaos was originally named the Mayhem after Rob's custom, but down the line later they realized that somebody had legally registered the name for a knife, so it needed to be changed. Chaos fit, so they rolled with that. Design-wise, the only significant design difference was going to be the lock, and Yua actually completely developed the lock on his own, engineered it to work, and everything else in the Mayhem frame. And Rob didn't even know until they were finalizing the design, and he got the final files, and he was shocked to see the big change. This, of course, would have been another in a sea of frame lock knives that are out there, but now it's a bit more special. The other difference was the choil that was needed to give added clearance. You can see right here for this lock. If it had just been a frame lock, wouldn't have had to engineer that. Now, when Rob told the world that he was developing designs with a brand based in China, some people were verbal about their disappointment, as we've come to expect from assholes on the internet. But as Rob told me, from working with Yua, I had realized this guy is absolutely no different than me. He has dreams and aspirations just like I do and every other American does. He just so happens to live in China. And it's funny because I said that almost verbatim a couple of years back. What was it, 2022, early 2022? If you go back and watch the video that I did about when Microtech launched the SOCOM Bravo that they did with Reich Knife in China, and people were losing their minds because the great American knife brand was making stuff with China. And I said almost the exact same thing. just because somebody lives in China doesn't make it a bad thing. These are normal people just like us that want to provide for their families and create successful businesses and create products that other people enjoy the same way that we do. It just so happens they live in China. And yes, there are things that go along with that, and I do understand them. That was discussed to death in that comment section, and I don't want to go through that whole thing in this one. All right. Now, on to the Vased story. Yua, being as specific and analytical as you'd expect from an engineer, breaks down the Vased name like this. V of steed. V as in vector. In physics, vector is a quantity that has both magnitude and direction, which is what cutting, chopping, slicing, dicing, and stabbing motions are. You get a magnitude of force, and you give the force a direction. Secondly, he says V as in vectorize. In CAD, vectorize is the process that many engineers, like he does, when they convert a paper drawing into a complex 2D or 3D work. Then he goes on to V for valor. For many new cooks, chefs, as well as adventurers, the most difficult is to start their own journey. He says, I envy those valorous enough to try new recipes, new ingredients, and a new path. And that very clearly is what he did by leaving a very well-known established brand to strike out on his own. And finally, he says, V for victory. Life is not easy, and every single day can be a challenge. While some people may define victory as things that are grandiose or ostentatious, he says, I often think that the small things that we do for each other can be the most important victory. Small things like being kind to each other, small things like standing up for the little guy, things like making food for your loved ones. A knife is a good tool, maybe a great tool for all of those things. And then finally, V as in the shape of the edge, because you have a V-ground edge here. Now, on to steed. He said, a steed is a horse trained for riding. In inexperienced hands, a knife, whether a chef knife or a folding knife, can be a dangerous tool. However, he believes that with knowledge and experience, a knife will be one of the best workhorses in our lives, and I can't disagree with him. In the long history of humans, knives have propelled our brave adventures, he says. To me, the knife is a workhorse, and the reason why our forefathers and foremothers can fend off dangerous animals and enemies, it's also the tool that they used to prepare food for our ancestors. Vased is committed to being the bridge between designers, makers, and enthusiasts. Vased is founded of the core belief, stay sharp, stay wild. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't like to read things that I've had to print off in front of me, but I felt that Yua's words were so important in the way that he expressed them as to what his brand means to him and their mission statement, that I wanted to make sure that I didn't confuse any of the words and put the wrong words in his mouth, basically. And I'll be honest, I am damn upset at myself for ignoring this brand for so long. One, as a collector, I've been missing out. Two, as a reviewer, I haven't given you insight into a brand that you might have fallen in love with quite a while back. And three, I've put a lot of my knife designs in with several companies. And as you guys know, I've released quite a few already with Tuya Knife, and I've been very, very happy with them. But now, after feeling this knife, I kind of wish I would have submitted some collaborations with them. But I didn't know. I mean, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. So now, on to the actual knife review. And as I do this, I want to go ahead and open this up. This is Rob's personal knife. And there are going to be some small differences between this one and mine. First off, mine is the sheep's foot blade. So you see how the edge has a little bit of curvature and it lifts up a little bit toward the tip. And Rob's is the Wharncliffe. The Wharncliffe follows the Mayhem original custom. And it's funny because he was telling me as this was all beginning, he's like, I kind of wish they would have sent you the Wharncliffe because that's the most pure. It's the one that's closest to what I make as the custom. And I'm going to be honest with you, I like them both equally. I really, really do. But there is something about the Wharncliffe. I really like the very long slope that we have here to the tip. It looks really, really good. And his obviously has some different materials. This appears to be, I'm guessing like the pivot might be bronze. I don't know if it's bronze or it's brass, but it's developing a patina. It's getting dark like bronze would in the same way bronze would. I'm not sure. Or if that's just anodized hardware, then he's really been handling this a lot to have discolored the anodizing, which, by the way, for those that are new to titanium knives and anodized things, a little spritz of Windex on a cloth, wiping it down, will bring all anodized colors back like they're brand new. And that may be all this one needs. But this is his personal knife that I'll be sending back as soon as I possibly can. I'm recording this on a Friday, so I don't like things sitting in the postal facilities over the weekend, so I'll ship that back to him Monday so that it's somewhat more guaranteed he'll get it back. All right, let's start things off with the specs because that is seriously important. Overall length of 8.24 inches with a blade that is 3.3 inches in M390 with a Rockwell hardness of 60 to 62. Blade stock thickness, which is super important on this particular knife, is 160 thou thick. Your weight is 5.5 ounces. So yeah, she's got some weight on her, man. She's not a big old sloppy fat pig or anything, but there's definitely some heft there. This isn't going to be the EDC for everyone. If you're a smaller stature dude wearing fucking skinny jeans, yeah, this probably ain't going to work out for you, Chief. The lock type, again, is the top liner lock. Your pivot is going to be caged ceramic bearings, and everything from here back is titanium. Now, I do believe on mine here that the pivot collar is going to be copper. It sure as hell looks like it. Very classy. It's a nice classy way to break up the look. And again, I want to show you kind of close up how this lock actually works. So, I mean, it's super, super simple. You've got a liner lock, but instead of the liner lock engaging down here against the tang of the blade, it's engaging all the way back here. Well, it's actually midway through, but you can see it from up here. And when you push this pusher, it's doing what your thumb would do manually. It just moves the lock right out of the way, and you could see it right in there. And, oh gosh, I have enough flashlights sitting here. And we can actually see where it engages right there in that, the end of the tang there, it's where that notch is right there, is where it engages. I got to tell you, it is pretty damn cool. I think it is awesome. I really, really like the feel in the hand. I like the size. And as I mentioned, to me, the thickness of the blade was super important on this knife because it needs to be chunky and beefy because it has to meet up to what Rob makes as customs, which they're just mean looking blades. They look like they're designed to just slice through humans. But it can't be so thick and heavy that it becomes cumbersome. And because we know the type of lock this is, a lot of people are just going to hit the lock and let the blade drop. And you want it to be able to fully drop, so you need some weight to it. But if it's too damn heavy, then it's kind of a danger. Because if you don't get your finger out of the way, honestly, this is still going to hurt you. But it would hurt you worse if it was like I don't know, quarter inch thick, 250 thou, it would be ridiculous. You'd be adding another full ounce to this knife just about, and all of that blade coming down at you would be pretty damn scary. Now, when it comes to carrying this knife, it carries very, very well. You've got the perfect amount of tension in this pocket clip and lots of clearance there for thicker pants. If you like to wear jeans like I do, this is going to be fantastic without requiring any kind of standoffs to lift up the entire clip. They did a really good job executing that. I love the geometry of the faceting, the grinds, not really grinds, it was milled, but the facets on that pocket clip, very, very cool. It is a proud backspacer, so it's sticking up just a little bit, and they have chamfered off all of the harsh edges. And they've done that, by the way, all the way around the frame as well. So you have no harsh edges anywhere where your hands are in contact with this knife. The jimping is not really all that effective. It's almost there more for decoration to kind of go with the cool milled slots than it really is for being effective. I like the fact that you have a really well-placed and well-designed flipper tab. See, there I go. It feels so much like a damn frame lock that I go to unlock it down there. And then you've also got the large blade window, which allows you to flick it open with the greatest of ease. And the detent is done so well that it rockets out when you're flipping it or flicking it, but you can also slow roll it. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you've ever picked up a knife that has so many methods of deployment and it relies on being a flipper, a lot of times they will tune that detent to be sharp and crisp. Because for a flipper, you want that. You want that thing to rocket open. And you want to be able to put that thing straight up and not have a problem going to full lock. However, if it's tuned only for that, then what happens is when you're thumb rolling it nice and gently, you're having a hard time overcoming that detent. And when you've put enough pressure to overcome the detent, the blade will kind of go whoop. And a lot of times it'll go enough to where your finger's still going to be moving, your thumb, and you think everything's going good. And then what you're doing is you're actually hitting the blade and sliding your finger up the blade. So that balance is super important. And I'm going to be honest with you, for a brand as young as Vased is, I am surprised to see that they have tweaked this in a way that it performs equally well no matter how you decide to open it. This is the kind of thing that generally is going to be left up to the big boys. Ones that have been around for a long time doing this shit. I love that they really brought Rob's design all the way through this knife. Not just the overall, not just the blade shape, but the fact that he likes to do the aggressive milling. It makes the knives look like there's something from the future. I apologize for now all the markings and fingerprints all over my blade. Then we get to the grind. I promised you I would get to it. What Rob likes to do is do very intricate, difficult grinds. Now, we don't always do grinds that are complex because they're the most practical or effective. I'll be perfectly honest with you. A lot of us do it to show off, to show that we have the skill to be able to pull that off. Now, while it's very unlikely that these are hand ground as production knives, they have replicated his plunges. They have replicated the intersection between the grinds. They have replicated the very thick grind that he keeps at the back. They've done such a damn good job with this. I can't stop saying how impressed I am. Now, when you're doing a reverse compound grind, this is the best way to do. If you're going to do a compound, this is the best way to do it, where it's thicker at the back and thinner on the front grind. Because as you're cutting through something, you're dropping down to the thinner bevel. Now, vice versa, on a lot of people's standard compound grinds, what they'll do is they'll do it thin back here, and then it'll be a little bit thicker, because a lot of times this will be hollow and this will be flat. And what they're doing is that line right there, that where the blades intersect, becomes a speed bump. When you're cutting something, it'll actually kind of snag. With the reverse compound grind, you see how that drops off and actually gets thinner, making it a better performer. So yes, this probably wasn't created by Rob initially in his customs to be a flat-out performer. It was to look really aggressive and really badass, but on top of that, also still be a performer, not sacrificing performance just to look cool. You know what? Vased replicated it really, really well. I think it looks just badass. They both versions, and there were different finishes and flavors among each of them. I think there was a black wash version of this one as well. All the versions I've seen pictured look really, really good. And now that I've handled them, I've felt them in the hand, I've felt the weightiness, I've felt the action, I've felt the edges, using them to cut a little bit. I am super beyond impressed with this brand. To the point where I've reached out and talked to you a few times. And just like Rob, we kind of just, it was a more personable thing about him and his brand and everything else. And what I like, what he likes, more so than just, hey, here's this knife and here's all about this knife. We've talked, another good friend of mine who I've been very close friends with for a number of years, and you guys have seen me on his channel way, way, way back in the glory days of knife tubers. My buddy Jeff, Tough Thumbs, Tough Knives, has collaborated with Vased, and you guys have seen reviews on that knife as well, the Psyop. And I talked to Yua about being able to review one of those, and I'm going to have one of those under my lens very, very soon. I know that Rob and Jeff know each other as well, and it's nice to see this community. It's weird, this community that branches off so vastly, kind of pulled in tight-knit just around Vased. So I think that what Yua had said about bringing manufacturing and collectors and custom makers together, I don't think that it's a marketing thing. I think that really is where he comes from, because I'm watching that two great knife makers out of the state of Pennsylvania that are collaborating with him, and both of those, by the way, were intended to be flagship knives for the brand. Not just, hey, I have a knife brand, I can make some of your designs, and then pop them out there as a $100 knife. These are premium, top flight knives. And while Yua does all of the designs for the standard lineup of the brand, he's giving these top spots to these custom makers. And I'm excited because I think it is damn well time that makers like both Rob and Jeff finally get really big recognition for their talents. And that's all I got to say about that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it ran long, but I didn't want to just come out here and make little giggly noises and ooh and exclamations and shit like everybody else does. I wanted to give you the information because I am so impressed with this knife and now enamored with the brand that I had to let you know that actually, I'm a moron and I should have paid attention to them a while back. And two, I wanted you to get the full experience and understand why it is that I feel the attachment to this knife. And this is going to be a constant companion in my pocket, one that will be in my regular rotation. You know me, there's no such thing as an EDC in the strictest terms. I will never carry one thing every day. I mean, you see from the various flashlights that I review and the knives that I review, and now with my alternate channel, these little fun things that I review, I like to have variety. But this is definitely one that's going to be in that that closer rotation, the smaller rotation, the things that I truly love the most. And it's well deserved. The quality is there, the feel is there, the finish work is fantastic. Well, it's not, particularly crazy. It's just, bead blasted titanium with a nice clean machine finish on the blade, which I have now made horribly dirty. I apologize. That doesn't look very good on camera, but whatever. I think they've done a fantastic job all the way around on the execution of these knives. And for those of you that already have one of these, because again, I am super late to the party. I know a lot of you watching right now already have one of these. Please do chime in down below in the comments section and let me know your thoughts on the Chaos. Let me know what happened when you first got it. Were you impressed? Were you bowled over? Have you enjoyed carrying it? Has it been a quality, useful knife that is held up over time for you? And if not, put that down there as well. I think it's important that everybody knows everything. That's the way to put it. Anyway, so I'm going to go for now. I've got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of photography to do on a lot of the lights that have arrived recently, and I got to start reviewing them. These will be coming, by the way, the Raylight LAN Apple. This is actually the second LAN Apple I've had. I had one a couple of years ago when I was kind of in between. I went from doing the really, really high-end custom lights, $500,000, $800,000, stuff like that. And so it did not get included in my Into the Light series. When it comes to size and the quality and everything, this is absolutely one of my favorite lights now. Hands down, no way around it. I got this from Blade and Beam recently, and they were fantastic to deal with. If you've never experienced them, go Google them, or I'll try to put the link down in the description. Blade and Beam, really, really cool family-owned business that are focused on knives and flashlights. The Woobin X2, which is an utterly insane little knife. I've really found myself enjoying flat-bodied flashlights recently. And then this was a special edition of the Manker Timeback 3. This particular colorway was only available through one website, and I think it's pretty darn cool, man. It's got some great features. And while I'm not a huge fan of the whole fidget toy thing, and they have put 3 or 4 fidgets on this light, the quality of the light on its own as a performer is pretty darn incredible. And these two little spheres that you see right here, this one is Mokume, and this one is Damasteel. These were made by my very good friend Rich Stadler at Billet Spin. And if you guys have been with my channel for a long time, you remember the billet spin tops and everything that I've talked about on my channel for many, many years. Rich and I are good friends, and he made these for me, and I just think that they're so damn cool. The guy is so talented, an amazing machinist, and the finish work that he puts into his stuff too is super cool. All I got to say is it took a lot of balls to move away from his established top business to making balls. That was dumb. All right, I'm going to move on before I make more stupid jokes. I'll see you guys on the next one.